Well, here's the deal. What we do is good for everybody and turn every single district red. That's what needs to happen.
House Bill 4 is finally passed.
Over 500 people signed up to testify, the majority testifying against what Texas is doing. It's illegal, it's immoral, and they're doing it for Trump. It's a clear power play. Now, it's important to recognize we're standing in front of this Confederate monument right now where we're talking about that, because the idea of just doing some stuff that is clearly illegal, clearly immoral at the state house that is fronted by the Confederate monument, are we surprised? Like, America is contradictions between its ideas and its realities. Texas doing this is messed up, and it makes sense because at the end of the day, white supremacy. Not surprised that the white supremacists are white supremacy.
And look, I gotta say, all these Republicans, they're weak. They're scared, they're weak, they know they're about to get crushed in these next midterms. That's why we gotta rise up and let them know we're not afraid of them.
Definitely. We keeping it a stack. When he was pointing at them folks, they seen him like, this
That's right.
young black man, we gon'. They must have gave him the nod. Remind him his place. Listen, man, when they tackled him to the ground, I thought to myself, in my state, there are so many well-meaning white people that can say what's on their mind and speak on, but he did it in a very demure,
That's right.
but direct way.
That's right.
Just why do you think us in Texas should be paying attention to what they trying to do right now, though?
Because they're trying to wipe out our power. I mean, look, they're throwing us off of our health care. They're making things more expensive. It's disgusting. And so ultimately, they're trying to erase us because they know our power. So it's time to go and show them what happens when we use our power. So we got to go out and vote. We got to do everything that's necessary because they're coming for us. So it's time for us to go for them.
It was two people while I was sitting in there argue in favor for the redistricting, and both of them talked about how this white woman got up there and said that America is down for needs a recourse. It needs a resetting, and that the Republicans in Texas is trying to give America a hard reset and go the Republican way, the conservative way. And I thought, this is definitely the beginning of Handmaid's Tale.
Hey, the first time I was able to come out here to the Capitol, I think I was in elementary school. They said, of course, you're from Texas, so they're gonna give you hella field trips to be able to come and check out the state capitol. So that was my first time being here. As a matter of fact, when I drove here through Houston, I drove through Washington County, Washington on the Brazos. It's the birthplace of Texas. It's where a bunch of European settlers decided that they should have their God-given right of being able to own slaves. And General Santa Anna, you evil brown dictator, how dare you encroach on the white man's ability to live life, liberty, pursuit of happiness by being able to own me a couple of Negroes. We know you got a law that say we can only have servants, but damn it, we believe we should be able to do what we want on this land. And right now, Texas beat a whole bunch of Mexican people in the head and black people in the head about following the law. Whole time, this entire state is birthed into statehood, or it was a country first technically, but it was done because they didn't want to abide by the law. The irony, right?
Something about being in the state capitol and thinking about all of the Texas nationalist propaganda that you've been spoon-fed your entire life, just make it where being in that congressional redistricting testimony hearing, whatever you want to call it, it has made it would hit different. As somebody that cares a lot about history, as somebody that's really immersed themselves in not only Texas history, but thinking of, the way in which policy is curated and thinking about how different popular sovereignty and being a republic and, federalism and, separation of power and checks and balances and all these ideas supposed to make up, what America is and what democracy is, how all those concepts has always already been manipulated from the jump. To me, the idea that one vote, one person, one vote, man, gerrymandering has always made it where that's not necessarily true. And now I'm internally having this conversation with my 34-year-old self and thinking about what I thought about the world when I was 24. When I was 24, it was 2005, 2015, 2014. And I really did not believe in democracy or believe in the state so much that I was so pessimistic I ain't even believe in being politically active. And I'm really right now internally having a conversation with myself because I'm remembering a lot of the pessimism that I had when I was younger and just recognizing why I wasn't a fool when I was young. Because it's a reason why the game is already rigged. When I debated for Oklahoma debate, we used to have an argument that said, I'm going to forget, the topic was about democracy assistance. It was like the United States federal government should substantially increase democracy assistance in Bahrain, Libya, Tunisia, Egypt. You know what I'm saying? It was during the Arab Spring. And I remember me and my debate partner was critical debaters. So we weren't no traditional as, you know what I'm saying, United States federal government should be. Nah, literally was like democracy is rigged. And debate is rigged. In order to unrig debate, we got to unrig democracy. And I've been thinking about that all day and is recognizing we've been sold ideas of popular sovereignty when from the jump, these individuals that's in power has always been able to create a district to manipulate in a way where they get to pick the voters instead of voters picking the politician. And that's what we see in Texas. I'm 34 years old. In my 34 years of living, Texas has been literally ran by Republicans for over 30 years. All the problems and shortcomings in this state is never scripted onto Republicans the way that it should be. And as a result, nobody really bats an eye when 10 years, every 10 years, supposed to be redistricting based off the, you know what I'm saying, the consistency and based off of population growth. Somehow though, Texas will make it where I seen a stat today that was like, only 37% of the registered voters here is Republican and like 40-some% is the Democrat. But through gerrymandering, they're always able to manipulate the political power. So in this state, it shows you they only care about black people, you know what I'm saying, when we run on the football fields, and they only care about Mexican people when they trying to do some services to their house, the yard or some shit. They only care about black people when they started trying to talk about, you know what I'm saying, crime. They don't care about Latino people when they start talking about crime. You feel me? When we start talking about political power, they figuring out ways to do a whole bunch of cracking and a whole bunch of packing, a whole bunch of packing and a whole bunch of cracking. So I'm really thinking about how democracy has been inherently bankrupt from the jump. It's always operated with doublespeak, really. We want to coerce the people and thinking like they have some say and thinking like they have some freedom, when the whole time we're really just a whole bunch of aristocrats that's able to dictate policy the way we want to while making the general public believe they have something going on. This dude right here, he has his hand in almost every redistricting that's happened. Tom Hoffler, he was the Republican National Committee Redistricting Director, the RNC Redistricting Director. And after he passed away, he had a daughter that was an activist, and his daughter hopped on his computer and found thousands of files with his name all over them, literally reflecting the redistricting throughout our country. And what it showed is that, and there's a speech of him too, talking about how great it is for representatives to be able to pick their voters. And then he smiles in a very way where he's trying to come off as clever. He believes it's a genius idea. We've been having undemocratic things happen in this country since the beginning. And a lot of individuals believe that's a reason for us to cling with trying to perfect the system, because we've never had a good way it operates, supposed to operate. The more I sit here and just listen and look at these representatives in their eyes and just see, like, to me, it's like being real, like, you evil. I can look you in your eyes and tell you ain't got an ethical bone in your body. You're selfish. Not only are you selfish, you're doing a lot of things in the name of God. It's ungodly. If I was able to do a speech today, I would have to ask conservatives, like, what are y'all conserving, man? I want to be clear. I'm not trying to change your mind, because it's obvious to me your mind is already made up. Everything you're doing right now is based off of formality, and you basically already having the candidate you want to give the job. But based off of the law and HR requirements and standards, you have to, go through a particular process, even though you already have your candidate picked before you went and told these people and gave people false hope that they probably get the job. That's how I felt listening to that congressional hearing. Y'all mind already made up. So much is that when y'all were talking to y'all colleagues, the room was full. You feel me? Every representative seat was filled. When it came time to hear from the people, man, half the representatives was taking lunch breaks, I guess, or peeing. You know what I'm saying? I'm talking about they wasn't there. There's a few Democrats in there, but a lot of them spots was missing, man. Now, my mind was blown today that the Iceman George Gervin, his sister is representing my state, Barbara Gervin Hawkins, man. Crazy, you feel me? Crazy. But back to these Republicans, man, they got some entitlement issues, man. I'm talking about they want to make their ancestors proud and making sure that they keep black people in a particular position like when their ancestors was alive. There's no way for me to not come to that conclusion as a black person. I'm in Austin, though, man. I'm in my room. This is what my room look like. Thoughts is real raw right now. I'll gather my thoughts a little bit better tomorrow. I'll throw some clips in today. I ran into this Indian dude that live outside of Austin, man. This fucker red down. I got him. I think you see the back of his head in one of my videos, man. And that I was doing a little when I was doing their testimonies and whatnot. Bro barely speak English with a Trump hat on, talking about he's running for Congress and that he stands for this redistricting. I'm telling him, woo woo. Dude looked me in my eyes and said, no, anybody can run, so anybody can win. Literally like, sir, you don't believe that? Fair. Like, no, it's not fair. You don't believe that either. I was like, no, sir, we disagree. We just fundamentally disagree. And I'm figuring out that because I'm used to debating and used to being able to state my point while acknowledging what your point is, me telling the person, no, we disagree, that's, that, and the other, in this state right here, like talking to an Indian Republican, a white man Republican, a white woman Republican, it's something about me being like, nah, we disagree. This is why we disagree. They couldn't respond. Yeah, I don't know, man. So this gentleman with the Confederate flag and the American flag and the Texas flag illustrates the caucasity that a lot of Anglo-Texans have in here in my state. Black people cannot defy, resist, and or oppose any American symbol or American patriotism without being called anti-American. But you're able to go inside of the state capitol with a anti-American flag talking about your state's rights. I don't think it's coincidental that here in Texas education, they want to teach people that Civil War started because of states' rights. And I think that is where this conversation of gerrymandering comes in very appropriately. See, for a long time, the Supreme Court decided that gerrymandering in congressional districts was left up to the states. And when you live in a state like Texas, that wants the South to rise again, you always have remnants of people trying to sprinkle some of the old seasoning from the Civil War times and Reconstruction when it failed, making sure that Black people have no representation, even though we're being taxed. Somebody said that the result of what's going on in our country is us allowing for coaches to teach history and humanities in this country for the past umpteen years, man. And I think that's very reflective. For a long time, I've been told, you better be glad that you don't live in a country over there, because here you can criticize your officials and we have elected officials that can go against other authority. And now we have the governor of Texas threatening to arrest and put warrants out for their arrest.
In my opinion, they don't deserve a monument. They deserve for whatever grave site they sitting in for it to be pissed on every day of the week. I'm sitting here in defiance because I know they would not. They rolling over in their grave seeing my black ass say what I'm saying to them right now while they in the ground. They should be there. As a matter of fact, everybody that found any elitists under this flag talking about the South should rise again, the Union should have treated y'all the way they should have treated y'all, being some traitors. You feel me? But because the Union was a whole bunch of cowards and wanted to let y'all back in, now we had to deal with Reconstruction. Now we got to deal with a whole bunch of entitled white people in 2025 trying to keep the conservative alive, or the Confederacy alive, but doing it via the Conservative Party. It's not ironic that all the states that seceded from the Union find themselves caught up in that Southern strategy Republican red today. These guys, though. I'm talking about, I have no risk. These are demons. If you're willing to fight and keep me on the plantation and put your life on the line, demon activity. You feel me? If it walk like a demon, if it talk like a demon, if it move like a demon, it's a demon.